I'm Dr. Annie Williams, a mineral specialist in cattle and sheep. For my snapshot study, I travelled to New Zealand to investigate how cattle and sheep are supplemented in grazing systems. New Zealand operates very differently to the UK, and a large proportion of mineral is sold through the vet. There is definitely a greater emphasis on mineral balance, and I think there are a few reasons for this. Firstly, the majority of dairy cows are in spring block calving systems, and therefore there is a lot of emphasis on fertility and keeping calving blocks tight. Mineral nutrition is critical to achieving this. The second reason is that a large proportion of the diet for both cattle and sheep is grass, and grass fluctuates in its mineral content both as the weather changes and throughout the year. Large parts of New Zealand are known for being low in selenium and copper, and this was a common conversation on farm. The third reason is expertise and advice. The majority of farmers, vets, and nutritionists were very familiar with the importance of balancing minerals in the diet, particularly those running extensive grazing systems. I was interested to see that all of these variables definitely led to more monitoring of mineral status through bloods and liver sampling of the animal, especially at critical times in the production cycle. But for this particular study, I was really interested in the types of supplementation being used. I was expecting to see lots of long-acting supplementation strategies such as boluses, but I didn't actually visit many farms, either dairy, beef or sheep, that were using boluses. When asked, most people said it was because of large animal numbers and therefore the very high labour requirement for administration of boluses. On most dairy farms, the primary supplementation was in feed, either on the feed pad or through the parlour. Injectables were also fairly commonplace, both in young stock and in targeted pre-mating. Dosatrons and administration of mineral through water were also fairly commonly seen, especially on farms that had little to no other feed input. There was definitely a willingness to invest in equipment to control mineral supplementation and make it as easy and practical as possible. When asked about supplementation selection, the majority of farms answered that cost was their major deciding factor in choosing an appropriate strategy and product, but it was clear that vets were the primary advisor on farm, both in terms of monitoring and in advising on appropriate supplementation strategy. In the more extensive sheep and beef systems, I did also see some licks being used, but for many of these systems, mineral inputs were very limited. Overall, there's definitely more emphasis on mineral nutrition in terms of measuring and monitoring, but this was mainly as a quick check before mating or calving, rather than being an assessment of the current supplementation strategy on the farm. I don't think this always led to high quality products being used, and there's still scope to optimise mineral nutrition further, both in the UK and in New Zealand. This could drive even better production outcomes. Improved measuring, monitoring, and then evaluation of the data could unpick where supplements are effective and identify the best formulations.